well. Today, the Treasurer said that he's going to be reviewing Australia's debt ceiling. This is a new conversation that seems to be appearing in the economic vernacular here. There has been suggestions that Australian government debt could hit 1 trillion Australian dollars. How does that fit with your own expectations as well? Is that realistic?
It's certainly quite possible. Don't forget, if you're talking about a $220 billion deficit or a $180 billion deficit, that's largely financed by debt. So that's the amount you add on to your debt. So if we're already in gross terms around, I forget the number, 600 billion, whatever it is, we're pushing in that direction. And it wouldn't at all surprise me if we get to $1 trillion in the years ahead, depending on how long it takes to get this coronavirus situation back under control. Is it disastrous? I don't think so. Got to bear in mind that the starting point for public debt in Australia relative to GDP is quite low compared to many other countries, compared to Japan, compared to Europe, compared to the US. On average, public debt as a share of GDP in Australia is about 1/4 of what it is in those other countries, particularly in net terms. So it wouldn't really worry me that much. If it happened all at once, then I'd get a little bit concerned, but I think it will probably be drawn out over several years.
Perhaps a little bit more worrying to the younger generation of Australians, Shane, who are going to have to pay it off. Not being ageist to you in any way, sir. Fully respect your analysis and appreciate you joining us. Just finally, though, let me follow up with a question on the growth outlook here. With regards to how the economy is likely to perform in the second half, what's your expectations for the growth momentum? Because I know the Finance Minister has said in the past that, look, clearly the uncertainty over the virus is going to be one major unknown when it comes to assessing the growth outlook, particularly when we see spikes in Victoria and parts of New South Wales. Is this going to be a major concern for the government, and what does the growth outlook look like in the second half?
I think it's very uncertain. I think growth will be positive, but the Treasurer has acknowledged that the situation in Victoria will weigh on growth to the tune of 0.75% at least. And that assumes the 6-week shutdown and no more. If it stretches out, then that knocks a bit more off growth. But I think we will see a gradual recovery through the second half of the year going into next year. So even though the government has minus 2.5% penciled in as a forecast for this financial year, which, bear in mind, is the worst since 1946-47, most of the damage was actually done in the tail end of the last financial year in the June quarter. And we should see a gradual recovery. But it's still going to take a long time before we see the level of economic activity pick up to where it was at the start of this year or the end of last year.